Hi, everybody. A big welcome, and I'm so excited to be part of this first ever virtual DrupalCon. And before we get started, I just wanted to really shout out to the amazing Drupal Association team for all their hard work and bringing this event in record time. I'm Shamla, CEO of Drupal Solutions at Unimity from Chennai, India. Unimity has been in IT for 25 plus years, and the last 14 years have been in Drupal. We've been implementing large enterprise solutions both India and worldwide. I've also had the opportunity to start Drupal India Association, which is a year old now, and we're racing ahead to be one of the largest contributors of Drupal 9. I think in the last 3 months, there's much that's happened, and many organizations are getting settled now actually in the new normal of the distributed workforce and the remote workforce, and some are still figuring answers. And today's panel is about how to maintain company culture with distributed teams. Let's hear the panelists share how they ensure to bring a sense of belonging amongst their employees, motivated their teams and ensured productivity. How did they support their teams that were trying to really balance family and work? How did they manage to really calm down and take things in the stride, even while there was so much stress, both business and personal, in the COVID situation? Let's hear them share some of the stories of how they manage to really take care of the physical and mental well-being of their employees. I'm keenly looking forward to this really special panelist from whom we have a lot to hear from. Before we get started with the questions, I'm going to ask them to just give a quick introduction. So starting with Teresa.
Hello, and thank you for including me in this panel today. I'm with PagerDuty. PagerDuty is a leading supplier of digital operations management platforms. And in our always on world, we work with all kinds of organizations of all different sizes who are working to deliver the best possible digital experience to their customers. And so teams will use our platform to identify issues and opportunities, to bring the right people together, to help fix problems quickly and to prevent them in the future. I've been with PagerDuty for the last 5 years. Pre-COVID, we had offices in San Francisco, and we still do have offices in San Francisco, Atlanta, Toronto, London, Sydney, and Seattle. And I'm responsible for our workplace experience. So as you can imagine, since March, our life has been changed and our roles have changed dramatically. But we are embracing the distributed and remote new world that we all live in. So thanks for inviting me to the panel.
Stephanie, you go ahead next.
Hello, everyone. First of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm the CEO of Amazing Labs. We're a global company. We're an agency. We specialize in conceptualizing, building, designing, and maintaining large enterprise web solutions. And we're a team of about 60 digitizations experts. We have hubs in Zurich and Cape Town. So pre-COVID and still going on, specifically in Switzerland. And then about 84% of our team is just distributed globally from New Zealand to Taiwan, to South Africa, all over Europe and the US. And we were in the very comfortable situation of already having this set up before all the restrictions came in place. But I've just got a lot of learnings to share, I believe, from the time that we had working in such a model.
Thank you, Stephanie. Elia, you'd like to go next?
Sure. I'm Elia. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Four Kitchens. We're a digital agency based in the United States. So unlike these other global folks here, we're just in the US. But we have web chefs across 14 different states. And we've been remote for about 4.5 years. Four Kitchens has focused on higher education, media and publishing, and nonprofit organizations across its 14-year history. We specialize in Drupal development, user experience design, and accessibility. Our team of web chefs specifically loves building important, innovative websites that solve complex problems. So if you are looking for that, stop by and say hi to our team at our booth in the virtual exhibit hall. We have some fun stuff planned this week that I know that they'd love to share with you.
Thank you, Elia. Brett?
Hi, Shyamala and everybody. Thank you so much for having me on this panel. Very excited to be with you. I am the CEO of PlatformSh. PlatformSh is a platform as a service focused on the developers. We help Drupal developers build awesome applications by focusing on their code, on the UI, on feature set, rather than spending time to trying and figure out the complexity of cloud. We thrive at attracting complexity away. Developers define the cloud architecture they need, and we magically make it happen. We launched the business a little more than 5 years ago. It's almost 200 of us now at PlatformSh. And I think, I like to think at least that one of the best decisions we've made was to go distributed and fully remote. We made the decision a little short than 4 years ago. We still have an office in Paris, so it's somehow still a little bit hybrid, but really most of our teams really is working from home across the entire world. And even though our biggest country is the US, the company is originated from France, and 90 people in the team are actually based in the US today. So very global setup. And again, very excited to share the learnings of that journey with you guys today.
Thank you, Fred. So I think we have here like PlatformSh, 4 kitchens and Amazing Labs, which were kind of globally distributed and working with remote teams even before the COVID started. So just wanted to hear from you, Elia. Why did you decide to go remote 4 years back, and how have you managed to maintain the culture of the distributed team at 4 Kitchens?
Thank you for that question. It's a great question. When I joined 4 Kitchens, we had, which was 7 years ago, we had just hired our first remote team member. And over the course of a couple of years, our demographic slowly shifted from mostly in office with a few remote team members to about 50-50 split between the office and remote. And when we first started hiring distributed team members, we really had a policy of remote first, which to us meant that if one person was remote and calling into a meeting, then everyone, even those in the office, would also take that call from their desk. And this meant that we ended up adding video conferencing to all of our meeting invites, because you never know when somebody might need to call in to a meeting and not be in the office. And that led to a lot of flexibility for the folks who were in the office as well as our distributed team members. And it got to the point where I might go in and I would be the only person in the office building that day. So we had our lease coming up for renewal, and I considered a lot of different options of what to do. Like, should we get a smaller office, get a co-working space, shut down the office completely? And ultimately, I just decided that maintaining 2 different cultures and models of work didn't really work for us. It wasn't sustainable. So in order to best serve our people, we kind of had to draw the line in the sand and say either we're all remote or we make a completely different decision. For us, and I think that I'm curious to hear what others have to say about this. The foundation of our culture has remained strong throughout that transition because that foundation was already focused on things that make a remote workforce work well, which is people and trust. So whatever your culture is going to be before going fully distributed, it's highly likely that it will be after going distributed. It's not like those foundations change. I do sometimes miss working in the office, obviously, but mainly because I truly enjoy the people that we work with as human beings and not just as like work colleagues. And a lot of them I wouldn't even know if we weren't a distributed team. So I'm grateful for the relationships that we get to build, which are deeply connected, even though we aren't physically together.
Thank you. And Fred, I know you started PlatformSh as a 12-member team and then grew to 198 members, right? I mean, 190 plus members. So, and you've always been a remote company. So, what drove you to like really make it remote right from the beginning? And what would you like to share to some of us who are just trying to figure, this new normal and saying like, yeah, maybe this is also for us. So what would you like to share with us?
Sure. Yeah, I think, just a little bit like Elia, there's a lot of similarities in the approach. I think, the first thing I'd like to say is we've always seen ourselves as a global company. Even though when we were very small, just a few of us, we wanted to solve a problem that was, to us, a problem for developers without borders. We didn't see as the opportunity as solving a problem for a specific country. We wanted to be truly global, and so very naturally for us, we started recruiting people in different countries. Also because we had customers in different countries, so it was very natural for us to start hiring people in different countries. And so probably that was the first motivation. And when you start small, you hire one person, obviously you're going to have them working from home. So that's how we got started. But frankly, I think we still had an office at the very beginning of the company, actually in Paris, and all founders were just in the same office every day at the very early days. We started 5.5 years ago, and the first 1.5 years we were still in an office. And quite frankly, we were just not successful in hiring the people we needed. We had some people in Paris, we had a few people in San Francisco as well. And these are major hubs, major tech hubs. And when you're a small startup, you don't have a brand. You just struggle to attract the talents you need to build the product you want to build. And we decided to switch to remote completely very quickly on because we couldn't find the right talent. If I do a quick fast forward 4 years later, this is really the problem we've solved with remote. Last year alone, in 2019, we've hired 80 people. And to hire those 80 people, we had 14,000 resumes to look through. So the number of applicants has been really going to the roof because I think remote is very attractive. And if you can accumulate, I think we've got an attractive culture. We are building some really cool stuff with very fancy technologies that attract engineers. You combine that with remote, and I think you get a really nice cocktail to be an attractive company. And I think that's actually the most attractive part in remote to me is the hiring and the amazing pool you get access to through just not having a geography criteria in your search. So to me, that's the major win. It's just like this pool of talent that is out there and is available.
Awesome. So we had Elia more remote, and Fred's team is like not just remote but also distributed. I think Stephanie, if I'm not wrong, your team is also fully distributed, right? You said Taiwan and New Zealand. And would you like to tell us how do you manage to the organization culture in this distributed team?
Yes. So we actually have a bit of a hybrid form. We have physical offices, 2 of those, but then also the distributed team around the world. And first of all, of course, all the processes and communication tools, they're very important. They need to work. People need to be able to reach out to one another instantly. That's very important. However, also what we do, hiring process is very thorough. We make sure every applicant meets almost the entire team, actually, that they're part of that culture already. We send out culture codes, and I also make sure, though, that people get to see one another once or twice a year. It could be at conferences. It can be that teams meet up based on a continent, for example. Or just about 2.5 years ago, I came up with a holiday season week. And we fly everyone to Switzerland, usually, and just spend some time in the mountains. And for me, having this mixture of everyone knows everyone and has met them once or twice throughout the year, And then at the same time, we just have this very close interaction with social stand-ups daily. It feels like a tight-knit group. So that's how we maintain our culture.
And I mean, it's so good to hear these different perspectives. Elia said about how, people and trust, and those foundations don't really change, and if these foundations are strong, then moving into the new remote mode is much easier. And the way you are making sure, Stephanie, to be available, right? I think that's a really important aspect, especially when we are tackling different time zones. I mean, to be able to sit up at 7 a.m. Did you say that in your counterpart in New Zealand? Ready to start work and, just being available for them. So those are amazing thoughts and that you've shared with us. I know, Teresa, PagerDuty was not like a fully remote or distributed organization. More about 20 to 80 is what you told me. So would you think there's something in this new normal, in this COVID, that being fully remote, what is it that you would take forward? Would you guys switch over to the new mode altogether? Or what are the learnings from this? This switch from partly, 20% remote and to a fully remote setup. What are your learnings, and what do you think would stay even after the pandemic as part of PagerDuty?
Sure. So you're right. It was 20% pre-COVID that were working remote, and then 80% of our staff were somewhere in the world in an office. And so we've had a lot of learnings. I think we went remote, 100% remote on March 10th. And from that day, one of the first things that we got back from our employees, in particular from the ones who were in the office, was this overwhelming sense of empathy for everyone who was remote. It was like everyone's eyes were open to, okay, so this is what it's like to work from home. It's hard to set a routine. It's hard to distinguish what is work, what is personal time, the need for breaks in between meetings. And so that empathy helped everyone to say, okay, let's make sure that we can offer a better experience for remote folks. And that's something that we're going to want to translate even after there are opportunities to go back into an office. We also recognized a lot about our meeting culture and our protocols around meeting, that if you were the minority who was remote and you were in a meeting with a group of people who were physically in an office, it was not the greatest experience. Sometimes there were audio issues, or it was hard to interject into a conversation where the majority of people were in a meeting. And so what we found is, I think someone mentioned this earlier, that when everybody's at that tile on a screen and we're all using Zoom, it really does democratize the meeting. And so I think that's also something that even when we go back, we won't want to lose that. Everybody has the same opportunity to participate, whether it's raising your hand in Zoom or adding something to a chat, but we're on an equal footing in our ability to contribute to the conversation. And so we don't want to take that away. We want everyone to still have that same opportunity once we do have folks going back into the office. And I think the final thing we learned is how quickly we could move from in physical to virtual. And so it seemed like overnight our new hire process was converted to virtual. We could touchlessly onboard someone. We have new hire training, learning and development, which also all went virtual. PagerDuty has the 1% pledge, and so we give back to our community in stock, in product, and in time. And we had planned a volunteer week, which again in May went 100% virtual. And so these are opportunities that previously would have been very different for an in-office person and a remote person, and now all of a sudden it's really an equalizer, and we're looking for ways that we can offer the same experiences for everyone, whether they're remote or they're in office. And so I think, and not to mention all of the marketing events that went virtual, and a hack week that also was done fully remote. So those are the things that we're going to want to keep even after it's safe to go back.
If I may bounce back on what both Teresa and Stephanie has said, I think what's very, very special about this period today is the fact that we're remote, but remote doesn't mean not seeing each other. I think we all have some sort of hybrid mix where, we get to see each other, we get to spend time together physically. And what's really special about, this COVID period is that's not something that can happen today. And it's raised a lot of challenges that even companies like, most of us here, which have already experiences having people in different locations, is that, we couldn't see each other. We had to do everything digital. And this is, this is probably not the way I want to drive the company myself. I want to see people from time to time. I want to find opportunities like Stephanie to actually bring people in the Alps or in the mountains, wherever, to just, have an experience all together, a social experience. Just working from home all the time, I think doesn't work. And so that's what's so special about these times. And we're all learning a lot, but how to properly do that without any contact at all. That's, I think, where the challenge is the most, the strongest.
Very true, very true. And Teresa, I could really relate to some of the aspects you were saying in terms of empathy, right? I mean, for many who have just moved into remote and not really had an experience into taking meetings remotely, being empathetic to them. In fact, in some of our meetings, we even encourage them to bring their kids to the meetings. I mean, because the employees were in meetings almost all through the day. So, I mean, it's only fair that you also just embrace the family as part of the... I could really relate to many of the things you shared, Teresa. Thank you so much. And Fred, there's a question for you from the audience. I want to just take that in before we go to our next dimension. They're asking, have you had experience of recruiting and training juniors or accepting internships remotely? Would you like to answer that?
That is actually a really good question. It's actually, I think, very easy to onboard people that have got experience in general into remote teams. If they have experience not only working but also working remote, it's even easier. Now for new for new employees that are fresh out of college, this is so much harder, and because they need much more training. They also need to at the beginning of their career. It's always good for for those people fresh out of college to be able to be inspired by their peers, and obviously this is something that you don't get to have so much in remote. So we at PlatformSh we make exceptions. That's actually why we still have an office in Paris. All the young trainees and also in sales, we get what's called SDRs or sales development representatives. These populations are mostly very young, fresh out of college type of people. Those people would actually work in an office, or they would actually be mentored by one specific person, and they would form a duo with that specific person as a default setup. Because again, I think remote works very well for people with experience. The average age at PlatformSh is 37 years old. If you compare that to the regular startup, where it's more, it's more 25, it's 12 years more, right? So we get to, I think there's a natural trend in remote and distributed teams. It's to get people with a little bit more experience than you would find in typical startups. So you absolutely need a specific setup for the youngs, because not having any fresh out of college people for companies like ours would be such a shame. So you have to be specific and have dedicated programs for those specific populations.
Thanks for that. Teresa, you said you had 30 interns, right? Do you want to just talk about how you went about onboarding them?
Sure. So PagerDuty has had a Career Accelerator program, our CAP program, for interns for a number of years. And we typically have between 20 and 35 interns any given work term. And over the summer, just before COVID, we had already made offers to roughly 30 interns, and we chose to continue to bring those folks on board and to work remote. And so it was really a combination of giving more tools to the hiring managers and making it clear the importance of communication and buddies to help those interns get up to speed more quickly and feel connected. And then in addition to that, the manager of the CAP program put some socials together for the interns. Typically, when they're in the office, they get to know each other and share their experiences. And so we didn't want to lose that experience. And so we also bring them together virtually today still, whether it's with a game or some kind of an activity where they can get to know each other and have more than one point of contact than just the person that is mentoring them. So it is something we opened our eyes, and we can continue to do this as we go forward. To Fred's point, in an ideal world, many of those folks would love to be in the office along with some of the demographic that are in their 20s. And so we are not going to get rid of our offices, but we will try to make sure that we can balance as we need.
So just going to move on to the next question, which is more towards, how do you encourage physical and mental well-being? Especially, this is not like a typical remote scenario, right? It's not just being remote, but it's also about just hearing all this news about your friends. And a lot of our employees are in areas which are probably affected by COVID more than some others. And some of them are really stressed about their families and friends. So physical and mental well-being, and these conversations are something that's every organization is trying to really make sure they are keeping it in their minds. So Elia, would you like to share with us what you would recommend and what are the steps you're doing towards these directions?
I think, when you were asking the question, the first thing that came to my mind was something that Teresa said, which is communication. Especially in a remote environment, you have to over communicate, whether that's your own personal needs or asking what somebody needs. Unlike an office where you could go in and see that somebody's having a bad day based on body language, you can't see that. So you have to just ask people, like, how are you? What do you need? How are things going with your family member who's waiting on their COVID test? I think that's the biggest thing for me. And one thing that has been important for us this year has been just encouraging people to take time off. Obviously, in the US, there's not a lot of opportunities for travel right now. So people are hesitant to take vacation time because they're not going to use it for something that they feel is worthwhile. But it's still really necessary to unplug from your computer, unplug from the day-to-day at work, and take some time out of your house even, go for a long walk somewhere. Just don't focus on email and Slack and all the things, because it's a lot to bear, just everything at work and then the heightened senses outside of work as well.
Stephanie, you want to add on to this?
Yes, so Elia, you said it correctly. It's really paying attention to people, the social stand-ups, they behave differently. Is it, do we have to ask, hey, something up, can we help you? Furthermore, we've also increased our social exchange. So we did quiz nights, for example. Those are always fun, and also have this or continue this interaction throughout the lockdown times. What I always do, I've done this previously, but I just really upped the communication during the COVID breakout in Europe. That was actually what hit us the most. Being very transparent with the state of the company. So when, for example, someone came up to me and said, hey, Stephanie, I feel insecure about my job. Of course, I couldn't promise them that it's going to be safe forever, because that's just not true. But what I do is I inform my team on a monthly basis where we stand financially. I also inform them, have there been any project stops, where do we stand at? And they all know that I'll do my best, and the entire team does their best that we get through that situation as good as possible. And I'm very, very lucky that not only the managers that I've briefed accordingly, but all our team members, it's really the team that comes up and, when they notice someone's not themselves sort of struggling a bit, that they reach out, that they help, that they support. And there are a lot of good measures how we can additionally support that as a company. Flexible working time, for example, conversations with our HR team member, things like that.
Thank you, Stephanie. Fred, anything at PlatformSh that you would like to share with us?
Sure. Yeah. No, I think the best news out there is that we have July 15th today, and we're almost halfway through this crappy year. It's been such a challenging one that it's been so much stress across the board for everybody. Between being sick and getting relatives being sick themselves, losing your job. I mean, there's been concerns and fear all over the place. And I think, the key words, and I can only concur to what Ilya and Stephanie have said. I think it's all about communicating transparently on what's going on. I think that's actually the number one thing that is expected from the leader of the company. It's transparent communication. I also think it's empathy. I think the least we can do is, not add additional stress to our employees to get enough to do it. And I think we need to, empathy is really at the core of what we need to do. I think, it's all about making sure that they understand that the work environment they live in is actually safe. It's a good place for them to go. Since everything has moved to 100% digital, I think it's also making sure that, you feel you can ask stupid questions on Slack and not being judged. There's nothing such as a stupid question, by the way. You must feel that you're not going to be judged. You can make mistakes. I think all of those things are really, really critical to make a positive life environment for your employees and collaborators. And I think that's really what we as CEOs can be focused on today. I think just making sure that the second half of the year is going through as quickly as possibly can be, and without extra damage. Enough has been done.
Teresa, anything on the physical and mental well-being that PagerDuty is doing differently?
I think just to add on what's already been said, because the point about flexibility and empathy is definitely something we're also doing. We're also trying to make better time use around meeting effectiveness. And so we've tried to work with 25 and 50-minute meetings so that people can get that break, ensure that everybody has a purpose and an agenda for a meeting, and really allow people to decide, do they need to be at that meeting or can they free up some time? We're also experimenting with no internal meetings on Wednesdays so that external focusing sales forces or marketing folks, partner relationships, they can focus on their customers and other people can really have dedicated focused time because it is very disruptive when you're always looking at Slack and Zoom. So we'll continue to experiment with things like that. We've also tried to increase the number of opportunities for wellness. So we brought on a mental health platform that's available to all employees, yoga instructors, guided meditation. One of our employees runs an art session where adults and kids can participate. Anything fun, Zoom contests, trivia contests. So anything to help distract. And I think what's really important, whether it's around PTO or just the behaviors and the openness, is that we ask our leaders to model the behavior that we want and to be vulnerable, to be the ones who can say, I am having a tough day today. And so hopefully letting other people know that it's okay to have a tough day, to need to flex your schedule, or perhaps to need to take time off. So those are things that we would add to everything that everyone else has also mentioned.
Thank you. I think those are all such wonderful ideas, starting with ensuring employees take breaks, to being empathetic, over communicating, and some of the fascinating ideas to de-stress from Teresa. So thank you all. Moving on to the next question. This is specific for Fred and Stephanie. For those of you in global offices, how do you manage your teams from different regions? Stephanie, want to go for that? I mean,
sure. So basically, since Zurich in Switzerland is my base, of course, the Zurich team gets to see me most. But I very much try to divide my time evenly for the different teams. I make sure to visit not only the Swiss morning stand-up, but the one in the afternoon as well for the US team members, so that everyone gets to see me every day. We also have the same support and benefit structure around the world. So it doesn't really matter where you're from, you get the same package. And what I also do, I was telling you before we started this session, I have breakfast meetings with our team members from New Zealand and Australia. And so I always tell them, I don't mind to get up very early, but they just have to put up with me looking really crumpled and just in my hoodie. And I was very lucky to experience the same flexibility with other team members in other time zones. And with that, we can make sure that we talk and see one another actually on a frequent base, and then the world doesn't feel that big anymore.
So you don't meet once or twice a year, is that right?
Also, yes, we also do that. So for example, I travel to the Cape Town office or go to conferences. There's actually one person in the team that I haven't yet met from the US. I would have done that in Minneapolis. For me, I always try to have a personal conversation with every team member to form memories outside of the work environment. So for example, I once sat 4 hours in front of Franklin's in Austin waiting for a barbecue. And just by making the effort to getting to know people around the world, that's not restricted to one country. I make sure that this happens around the globe.
Fred, do you want to add on to that?
I think the same as Stephanie. I think, this is probably, as on a personal note, this is probably one of the things I'm the most proud of. At PlatformSh, we get 37 different nationalities in the team. And that's a huge diversity. We get people from basically all over the place. And this is extremely exciting. We actually decided to organize the company not such as we don't have geographic organizations. All teams have team members from basically everywhere and anywhere. And so, we've got what we call initiative teams, for instance, in the engineering teams. They work on a specific part of the product, and they can compose with, a designer from Australia, 2 backend developers, 1 in the US, 1 in Europe, and a project manager in Canada. And so, this works actually really well. The only thing that I was joking with the panelists earlier, that the one thing we haven't cracked is time differences, and this is actually very challenging for all of us. It's part of what we do. We accept to sometimes wake up early and work a little late at night, and try to make a break, during the day, adapt the working hours because of that setup. I think it's so much worthwhile. I wouldn't trade that against anything. I think the impact of having such diversity in the team is so high that I would completely accept to continue doing that for years. And I think the team members feel the same. And so I've never heard anyone tell me let's stop with that setup, because everybody sees the value and the richness that brings to the company.
So I think we're just kind of in the last few minutes, but there's this really brilliant question, and I'm going to ask Elia to answer this for us. What suggestions do you have for your employees to create a workspace at home? How do you draw the boundaries between, family and home? How should you set boundaries, and so that they don't interrupt you when your physical presence are available? Just bring that balance between work and home, right? Especially with kids going to school and doing their online school, and both the partners are working at home. So Elia, could you just give us like a quick answer for that? I thought that question's really nice.
Sure. Full disclosure, I don't have kids at home, so I think I'm one of the lucky ones in COVID lockdown right now. But I do work with a lot of people who have kids at home. And I think that the boundaries go both ways. I think that you have to communicate with your family what you need. For example, I'm at home with my partner who also is working from home right now. And we both have offices with doors on them, which is very lucky. So right now, my office door is closed, and that very much communicates that, you know, I'm busy and not to be bothered. But if it's open, then, you know, feel free to like swing by and say hello. So I think that those kinds of boundaries are important. But the same goes for making boundaries at work. A lot of folks who don't normally have young kids at home have young kids with them 24/7 right now. And I've just been asking them to be clear and communicative and transparent about their availability, even if it means blocking off large chunks of time on their calendars throughout the week. You know, get your work done when you're going to get it done. Communicate when you're available to the team so that they don't just think that you've ghosted them. But this is just a reality that we're living in. So I think that it depends on your family dynamics and like what tools you have available to you. Not everybody has an office with a door that they can close. So I think it's just about communication and boundaries. For folks who are not experiencing those trials and tribulations, who are just maybe getting set up at home in general, I've been looking at the stage chat, and a few things that I absolutely agree with have popped up. Some folks have said that they have separate laptops for work and personal. I don't go that far, but I do have separate logins on my computer. So at the end of the day, I log out of my work profile, and if I need to get back online to, you know, check my personal email, scroll on Facebook, whatever it is that you're doing, I log into that personal account so that I'm not distracted by any other Slack pings or emails that might be coming in. So that's definitely, I think, step one in creating strong boundaries. If you do have the ability to create an office space that's not in your bedroom, it's great for your mental health. Being able to go to a different room and, you know, go to work, that was definitely important to me when we closed our office and I was creating my workspace. I have 2 monitors, a webcam, my headset, you know, just invest in good tools, because you spend, you know, a third of your waking life at work. So make it comfortable and make it a workspace that inspires you to do great work. That's my tips.
Awesome. Thank you so much, all of you, for jumping into this panel. And I think some of the top ideas for me is like people trust, empathy, over-communicate. And like Fred said, let's watch out for the next quarter that's going to be much brighter and which is going to be out of all these, you know, situations. Yes. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shamala. Thank you.
Bye.